And we are on air, and hopefully without any errors on air. A little Thanksgiving punning there. How are you today, Hadeen?
I am doing great, Chris. And as they say, to err is human, to forgive is divine. So I think that that kind of encapsulates some of what we're wanting to talk about today. Um, yeah, since it is the Thanksgiving time of year, Thanksgiving is tomorrow as we're recording this. Um, there's a lot to be thankful for, and I think sometimes as we're like either working on ourselves or going through our day, it can be easy to get kind of wrapped up in the, I don't know, flotsam and jetsam of our lives, I guess, and kind of lose track of the richness and the real spirit that inhabits everything that we do, that we interact with. And I think this is a perfect time of year for us to really go deeper with that and to remember that that is always an option for us to step into that way of looking at things and interacting with people.
Exactly. And, you know, one of the things that always comes to mind for me when we're talking about being thankful is that, again, as with all things in this realm, there is that potential of seeing the dualistic side of it, the not so good side of it emerge, where our sense of thankfulness becomes a sense of self assurance and arrogance, and we definitely have to be alert to that too, because we do have an immense amount of amazing things going on in the world for us, unfolding on our behalf. But at the same time, we can't become smug and kind of wallow in that sense of, look at me, God smiled on me with his special favor, and
Hmm.
look at how unique and special I am. So uh, it seems like we're constantly um, having that little bit of an edge show up in every avenue that we take. Spirit takes us down one avenue, and the ego tries in and joins in and tries to interpret it on its behalf.
Yeah, and somehow what that brings up for me is this trend that I see, some people taking photos of their meals and then posting them online. And somehow with this Thanksgiving meal coming up, that energy that you're describing comes into play because for as many people as there are getting together with people and having a meal, how many people are not, being able to share in a meal with someone on that day. And, is it a better than kind of energy? Is this like, I've got mine, as you're saying? And I appreciate that perspective because I think, like you said, there's the dualistic nature of this holiday and every holiday. And, for as much as there's a sense of togetherness and appreciation this time of year, I think there is the flip side that we need to be cautious of. We need to realize is on our radar and and look at how that can even be showing up within ourselves. Because I think that's where we always have the opportunity for healing. The world outside is going to be that mirror that reflects back to us the chance to look at something within. And it's up to us if we take that opportunity.
Exactly. And one of the things around that is that, you know, getting more deeply into that idea of having some kind of special dispensation from God, and failing to honor the fact that God's dispensation is for everyone equally. Um, we get caught up in that over and over again battle with the ego, and we walk away from situations imagining that it was me. I was the one who did all this, who made all this happen, who made the big step into that next realm. And that kind of takes me into what I was looking at as far as our discussion today is looking at the holy instant, that moment of it. We actually cease to be in this world, and we begin to touch that greater world that is our source. And in the Course, in chapter 18, in that 5th section, Jesus is describing the happy dream. And as he has some dialogue here about the holy instant, the idea is shared with us that it's not about us at all in the actual truth of the process. It is about us coming to a cessation. And in the Course it says, never approach the holy instant after you have tried to remove all fear and hatred from your mind. In other words, you can't even prepare yourself for it. All you have to do is arrive at a state of willingness, because it goes on to say that is its function. That is the holy instant's function. Never attempt to overlook your guilt before you ask the Holy Spirit's help. In other words, you have to take all of your frustration, your anger, your flaws, your sense of sin into the process. You cannot approach the process after you have prepared yourself to approach God. Because once again, he puts the emphasis on the fact that that is the Holy Spirit's function. Your part is only to offer him a little willingness to let him remove all fear and hatred and to be forgiven. And I think that, looking at it that way, Thanksgiving takes on an even deeper meaning, because that means that that divine element, the Holy Spirit, is always there for us in that sense of a willingness to change in reality, the totality of our existence in proportion to our willingness to hand our guilt, to hand all these negative things over to God.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. And, what comes to mind is that I'm not sure I want to yet, I can see how much I still want, the individual things. I want the specialness. I want the pieces of me to be important. And even though I can acknowledge that by wanting that, I suffer. And I think it's when I see that discrepancy that I really get, why Jesus uses the word insane to describe us again and again in the Course. Because it is insane. It's like I can see that I suffer from my choices, and I keep choosing them. And I think the beautiful thing about it is that I don't feel judged from Jesus or the Holy Spirit for those decisions. It's more like a gentle, patient laughter. Like, okay, well, yeah, you want to make a big deal out of the cranberry jelly that you're going to have tomorrow. Well, you can do that, and whatever other trinkets and toys that my ego wants to really be attached to. But I think it's a process, and I think even acknowledging that discrepancy is an important part of our healing journey, to see the ways that we really want to go home to God and have that experience of perfect love, and to acknowledge that another part of us says, this is not where I want to go. I want to dive back into the gallon of ice cream and the self-judgment, because that feels comfortable.
That's true. And well, as we continue down with that same theme with the Course, we are given this image of the happy dream. This whole reality is a dream, and most often it turns out to be a nightmarish dream. But within the Course, we are made aware of the fact that that does not have to be the case. We can turn this into a happy dream, but ultimately, once again, our addiction to the happy dream can become a barrier to our forward progress. Mm-hmm. And in the Course it says, happy dreams come true, not because they are dreams, but only because they are happy. So in other words, your state of mind is really the dominant theme in the journey through this realm. The circumstances around you may still be hideous, but your perception and your response to them um, can alter the entire experience that you're having here. And ultimately, the foundation of that is getting back to that idea of release and submission. The message is thy will be done and not I want it otherwise. And that really is the content of, most of what the Course is trying to share with us, is that it's God's will for us, which is in actuality our true will. It's just that we have forgotten it.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about how we can be at peace regardless of the circumstances around us. It really brings to mind some of the Holocaust survivors that we've heard about, that were able to bring a sense of equanimity to their lives, even in the face of, unrelenting cruelty. It's like, well, if people can go through such extreme circumstances and bring compassion and a sense of open-heartedness, it's kind of like, well, maybe I can do that in my life too. And if I feel like I'm being unfairly treated, then that's kind of the signal. I think every time I get that sense that somehow somebody's done me wrong, it really emphasizes, okay, I've slipped back into the ego again, and now I can find that sense of choosing for the light, even in the face of the darkness. And it is a choice that we have to make, and it's a choice that we have to make again and again and again. But the good news about that, I think, is that it starts to become a little easier as we make it a habit. And the Course itself says that right in the beginning, that miracles are habits. So we need to get into the habit of being miracle-minded, which means that every time we find ourselves slipping into some sort of judgment or attack thought or feeling of being victimized, that we can say, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And then we can say, well, why am I upset? And then that begins the thought process reversal that ultimately leads in that state of peace that we're really looking for.
Well, and one of the things that happens in the midst of that, and this kind of loops back into the idea of Thanksgiving and sharing the feast, sitting down and breaking bread, which is, really a tradition that we find throughout cultures all around the planet. Here in the United States, we make a big deal of this one particular day when the original images around Thanksgiving was that the Pilgrims and the indigenous population came together and had this beautiful epiphany-filled experience of sharing food and sharing, the idea of gratitude. Unfortunately, the actual reality was that the Indians were the ones who showed up with the food, and the first Europeans, that first Thanksgiving, were on the verge of starvation. So, and it's in those extreme situations where we do see that whole idea of Thanksgiving emerge. But one of the things that is very central in any Thanksgiving, anywhere in the world, in any culture, is a sense of community and bringing together people with a common theme. And if you can get, 2 or 10 or 50 or 100 people focused on that idea of the divine and sitting down, not so much for the theater involved, but more for the communion, the sense of union that prevails when we are all focused on that single idea of God. That's really what the true Thanksgiving is. And the Course in Miracles over and over again reiterates the idea that every time you give space for a miracle to occur in your own consciousness, you lift up an untold number of people with you. So it's not just you that's getting the benefits of Thanksgiving, it's a horde of people that you are oblivious to scattered all around the earth who are in that moment appreciative and thankful and focused on God consciousness.
Yeah, and I like how that idea fits into the idea of the world being a hologram, because the idea that it's a hologram means that everyone is within us and we are within everyone. So it just kind of reinforces this idea that there really is no separation, that all of these things that seem to prove that separation is real are really just devices that we have created in order to convince us of that truth that we're trying to reinforce. But there is no truth there to reinforce, because what we really are cannot be divided. It cannot be separate. So I like the image of the Son of God being like a pane of glass that shattered, or seemingly shattered, into all these different pieces. And they still retain that identity of glass, even though they seem to be separate. But the good news is that the glass never really shattered, but there is just a belief that it did. So even though it seems like we're a separate shard of glass, apart from it, all of our brother and sister shards of glass, we're actually still that pane of glass. So in every healing, there is that oneness. In every joining, there is that unity. And it really helps us begin to drop this sense that it's my way or the highway, which is kind of the ego's story that it likes to tell, so that we can feel special.
Exactly, and I remember when holographic processes were first being played around with and investigated, and in the process of creating a holographic image, you basically utilize a laser, and you shoot a laser through a negative, and when you bounce it off of an object, and it impresses itself upon the negative, and then when you take the negative and shoot the beam back through the negative, it gives you the multi-dimensional reality. But the thing I was most impressed with when I first saw that process occurring, was a friend of mine shared a holographic negative with me, and it was like a bunch of, it's like somebody took a bunch of thumbprints and just smeared them all over the negative. But the amazing thing was, you could take the negative, which when you shot the beam through the negative, you would see the entire image, and then you could cut the negative in half, and cut that half in half again, and then cut that again in half, theoretically down into the most infinitesimal piece, shoot the laser beam through it, and you would still get the entire image. And that really is the most fascinating aspect of that idea of a hologram, because again, even in this realm, we have come back to the place where we're giving ourselves the stimulants. We're giving ourselves in the material world these little doses of look more deeply into your life, because something much more profound is occurring here than what you're immediately aware of.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. There's something amazing about that hologram, and it has that same effect on me, where I'm just like, it feels like something like coming home. This idea that if you took all those little holographic pieces that still have the hole in them and you bring them together, it kind of reminds me of the story of Humpty Dumpty. It's like we think we're Humpty Dumpty, we fell off the wall, we're broken into these pieces that there's no way to go back. but in a sense, that's what our journey is we're bringing those pieces together. I think maybe it was even said that Jesus was gathering the separate shattered parts of the sonship back into their oneness again. Um, and in a sense, we're all doing that. Every time that we let some barrier that seems to be between ourselves and another fall away, and we remember that we have a shared purpose, and that purpose is in helping everyone to remember that they are really one, that they never really are guilty of what they think they've been, um, and what they think they've done. So the good news is that we're moving back into that state of wholeness. It just takes practice, and it takes persistence, and it takes a willingness to keep looking at the ways that we separate ourselves off from other people and from even parts of ourselves. So, yeah, it just keeps coming back to that idea of bringing the pieces back together into the wholeness.
Exactly, experiencing the unified, life, because that's what it is. It is life in its purest essence. A little bit further down in that same section of the Course, it says, "It is no dream to love your brother as yourself." And I've also loved that statement, even from the Bible, to love your brother as yourself. It says, "Nor is your holy relationship a dream. All that remains of dreams within it is that it is still a special relationship." In other words, as long as we're hinged on that belief that one person stands out within our circle of contacts that is special, that still is a minor barrier. Mm-hmm. But if we are committed to love within, every other relationship we have, it is another step on that journey to that realization that everybody is a special relationship within that sense that, you've found another part of yourself that has not been there, that you didn't recognize was there for all this time.
Yeah. And as I hear that, it makes me think of, the story of Helen Schuckman, the scribe of the Course, because a lot of people kind of make her out to be special. She had this ability to hear Jesus so clearly and so beautifully, and people would kind of put her on a pedestal at times, but I think the message more is that we all have that ability to connect to the divine within. So it is about taking her off that pedestal, or anyone off that pedestal, and finding the way that we all have that commonality. And I think what that does is it sort of puts us in a place where we can recognize our ability to step into communication with the Holy Spirit. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a voice that's talking in our mind, but it's a way of coming to know that sense of our wholeness, and to recognize that that's in everyone, because there's a real kind of leveling of the playing field that happens. But that's really the only way for us to step into all of who we are, is to not have things being better than or worse than, even while we go through our lives, or at least not taking those distinctions seriously, because it's when we make them into a big deal that we can't really, let them go.
Exactly. Well, as everybody is getting amped up for that the big feast, and all of those wonderful, enjoyable elements that go on in bringing the tribe together, bringing the family together, or even just going down and working in a soup kitchen for the day. There's an amazingly rich potential here for Thanksgiving 2014 to have a profound impact on you as well as everyone around you. One of the things in the Course here that I'll finish this up with on my end is there is a prayer that is shared with us in that same section, in section 5 of chapter 18. And it says, I desire this holy instant for myself, that I may share it with my brother, whom I love. It is not possible that I can have it without him, or he without me. Yet it is wholly possible for us to share it now. And so I choose this instant as the one to offer to the Holy Spirit, that is his blessing may descend upon us and keep us both in peace. And so perhaps that should be our special prayer for Thanksgiving before we sit down and actually dig into those mashed potatoes and slabs of turkey that'll be bandied about the room.
Yeah, don't forget the cranberry jelly.
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, you know, Wisconsin is a place where there are many, many cranberry bogs, and
Yeah.
I'm very fond of cranberries in all forms, jelly and sauce, etc., etc. But so you'll be traveling for Thanksgiving. I'll be here with the kids for Thanksgiving, and for all of the people that join us through the internet, I hope that you do have a blessed Thanksgiving, and remember that you can enhance that by reaching out and recognizing that nothing of any value would be happening were it not for the people around you. And if you love them or hate them, it's irrelevant. It's just getting back to that point where you recognize their divinity, and then it becomes much, much easier to embrace them and experience that union with them that Thanksgiving is all about.
Nice. Yeah, just to kind of finish up, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that if there's ever something that feels a little sour as you're going through the holidays, just remember that there is a way to reach out to that sweetness within, and to see it in our brother. You know, whether that brother is your mother or your father, your sister, your actual brother. You know, that you can make that choice within, and it'll change your experience of the holiday too. So, yeah, a real blessing to everyone who's watching this, and a real deep sense of appreciation to you, Chris. You know, this connection has really been beautiful for me, and it keeps being that way. And I'm looking forward to many more of these episodes with you.
Yes, I think it's going to be profound, and I think at some point, hopefully within the next year, we'll be out there where people can connect with us for live events, and that's, of course, kind of the vision we're working on. So happy Thanksgiving, Barret, and have safe travels. Don't run over any migrating turkeys on the way up north.
All right. I'll do my best.
Great. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye, Chris.
Bye.